Meanwhile, the Biden administration is slamming House Republicans' standalone Israel funding bill. Now, that bill is providing more than $14 billion in aid to Israel while cutting money from President Biden's $80 billion IRS budget. Where else is the money going to come from? The Office of Management and Budget released this memo, quote, "The bill is bad for Israel, for the Middle East region, and for our own national security. It inserts partisanship into support for Israel. If the president were presented with this bill, he would veto it." Joining me right now is North Carolina Congressman Greg Murphy, a member of the House Ways and Means Committee. Congressman, it's good to see you. Thanks very much for being here this morning. What are your thoughts on what you're hearing from the Biden administration? They're saying it's a no-go if you want to separate the money, Ukraine and Israel.
Well, that's very unfortunate because the package here in the House on the Republican side is not going to be able to put Ukraine funding and Israel funding together. Yeah, we need to pay for it somehow. Our debt is not going away, and that's really the greatest domestic threat we have right now, other than the fact that he's let who knows who come in our southern border. So we're going to have to pay for things. We want to support Israel, and if it takes money away from these IRS agents who are coming after daily average Americans, then so be it.
Yeah, I know, but he's going to veto it. So where does this stand? What's your plan B? I mean, he's saying, no, it's not happening. He's going to veto this.
Well, he also said he wasn't going to negotiate on the debt ceiling, and so we'll see how things work out on that. Yeah, so it's all part of negotiations.
Yeah, I'm with Tiana Lodesher this morning. Go ahead, Tiana, jump in.
Good morning. So I just want to ask about this pay for. You know, defenders of this increased IRS spending, like the Committee for Responsible Federal Budget, they say that for every $1 extra added to the IRS, it nets back $2. So they're saying that this is a double way of adding on to the deficit. How do you respond to that? What's the reason that you believe that cutting this IRS budget won't wind up impacting the deficit negatively?
Well, I think there are pockets of folks that have not been paying their taxes, but the problem is when he's putting 87,000 agents out into the America to go after. These are not the people who are auditing claims and giving money back to the American people, which, by the way, the U.S. Treasury owes millions upon millions to the American public. These are new agents to go out and attack mom and pop, bakeries and all of the other things that really are not the real main pockets of income source for the country. The way I've been really disappointed in the way our government estimates money, especially with the CBO. So I just can't put the exact credence in that perhaps you do or what the government does. Who knows really what those numbers are? The bottom line is that we can't keep funding people to attack this country. We have the weaponization of the IRS, the DOJ, the FBI, and I think that's really one of the core issues that really talks about funding with the IRS.
So how does that fit into your overall work? I know that we were watching you all pursue an investigation into the weaponization of these agencies. Where does that stand? And what about the appropriations bills? Congress now faces a November 17th government funding deadline. You posted this on X. The House could have 8 of the 12 appropriations bills passed this week, writing that as a surgeon, late nights don't bother you and you're ready to get the job done quickly. I want to get your take on where you are. I spoke with House Speaker Mike Johnson on Sunday Morning Futures on Sunday about his thoughts about if it doesn't get the work done by November 17th, you're facing another continuing resolution. Watch this.
If there indeed has to be a stopgap funding measure, that we would do that until January 15th. And the reason for that is it gets us beyond the end of the year push, and oftentimes the Senate tries to jam the House and force an omnibus spending bill. We're not doing that here anymore. We're having single subject bills in our separate appropriations bills. And so pushing that into January, I think, would assist us in that endeavor. There may be some conditions put on that, perhaps that 1% spending cut across the board instead of becoming effective in April.
How likely is that, Congressman? Where are you on the bills?
I think that's very likely, Maria, considering the fact that we had really an unforced error that kept us a month out of the appropriations process. It's absolutely unrealistic to think we're going to get all this done by November 17th. That said, I agree completely with the Speaker that we're going to do appropriations bills, not an omnibus, but it's going to take time. And again, we're here this week, and next week we were here several weeks in October that we're supposed to be back in the district. So we're here to get the work done.
Okay. Congressman, what do you make of what we heard heard from Christopher Wray yesterday. He's saying that the threat of a terrorist attack against America has been raised to a whole nother level. He's warning that Hamas could inspire attacks in the United States. Fox News' Peter Doocy pressed the White House National Council spokesperson John Kirby about it yesterday because of the wide open border. Watch this.
Has the White House considered the possibility that a terrorist could be in the country right now after crossing the southern border?
Peter, we are always concerned about the potential presence on U.S. soil of terrorists.
Is it possible that somebody who wants to commit a terrorist attack during a time of elevated threat crossed the southern border into the United States already?
I couldn't possibly answer that question, Peter.
Oh, he can't possibly answer the question, Congressman.
Yeah. Well, Maria, I would challenge CNN to actually look truthfully at the border right now.
Yeah.
This past year, in September, was the worst month ever for our border. 167 people have been caught on the terrorist watch list during the Biden administration, while there were 11 on during the Trump administration. And we don't know who were 1.6 million people got in this country. They don't know who are. So there, without a doubt, are terrorists within our country that somehow snuck by very well during this cauldron of chaos with the Hamas and the Palestinian demonstrations pro-Palestinian demonstrations across the country. We're at an absolute heightened threat because of the actions of the Biden administration.
So that's a dereliction of duty, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolute dereliction of duty.
Congressman, thank you. We'll keep a spotlight on it. We appreciate your time this morning.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Greg Murphy in D.C. this morning.